go ahead and get started then? Oh, now that's the cue. Well, hi everyone. Thanks for having Taylor and I today. Taylor and I fill the role of navigators for the client services team here out of the Lethbridge office of the Alzheimer Society. We get the pleasure of serving Alberta and the Northwest Territories, with the exception of a little pocket around Calgary, because Calgary has their own society, which a lot of people don't know. But they kind of have their own border around the city. So my name's Colleen. I've worked in and around Lethbridge as a recreation therapist and activity coordinator. That's sort of my background as well as Taylor's, which I'll pass it over to her in a second. But a lot of our background is that sort of whole person well-being. That's our kind of a passion, and I hope you hear that come out in today's presentation, and I think it fits well with brain health. Typically we're doing a talk on dementia and the brain, what happens when you lose your memories, how do we cope with this as a caregiver. So to talk about brain health is a little new for me, but I think this is a great opportunity for us to just sort of put ourselves in front of the community and show what we do here at the Society. But I'm going to pass it over to Taylor to introduce herself.
Yeah, thanks, Colleen. So we're both just super happy to be here and super happy to meet all of you guys. My name is Taylor Slomp, and I am also a client services navigator here at the Alzheimer Society, and we're both based out of the Lethbridge office. My background's also in recreation, and I just got my diploma from the Lethbridge College and was recently accepted at the University of Lethbridge for my bachelor's degree. So that's an exciting thing in my future. But yeah, if you guys have any questions after this presentation, you can feel free to either reach out to us over email or even come and see us in person at the Lethbridge office. We'd love to have you.
I'm going to share my screen. Thank you for making me co-host. Everyone can see that?
If you guys do have any questions, you can feel free to reach out your hand on Zoom, or maybe even just speak up, because it might be hard for us to see your little hands on when we have the presentation going, and we'll do our best to answer our question or your questions in the way that we can.
I can monitor that for you too.
Perfect. That's awesome.
Well, I guess I'll start and then I'll pass it over to Taylor. We're just going to sort of go back and forth presenting slides. So I hope you all can see my PowerPoint right now. Again, Taylor and I are from the Alzheimer Society. Our office is located downtown Lethbridge. If anyone knows where the purple carrot is, I stare at the side of their purple building most of the day outside my window. So we're just across the street. And our office is open Monday to Friday, 8:30 to 4:30, but we do a presentation once a month on the second Saturday, which we'll get into later, and that's an education piece we offer the community. So for today's presentation, we're going to talk a little bit about the Society, what we do. I want to share some stats about dementia with you, and then we're going to get into some brain health. Oh, my screen's not moving. There we go. So why are we concerned about dementia? And I have to say, these stats I find quite alarming and almost hard to get through because the numbers are so big. So, right now we're looking at about 600,000 Canadians are living with dementia. When we get into a crowd of people, we're seeing about 3 out of 4 Canadians know somebody with dementia. We did a presentation over with the E-Free Church, and we had about 120 people in the audience. And we said, if you know someone with dementia, will you raise your hand? And like literally every hand went up in the audience. So that was very shocking to see. Although I guess expected when you're coming to an Alzheimer's talk. By 2030, we're going to look at about 1 million Canadians with a diagnosis of some type of dementia. Right now, we're sitting at about 58,000 Albertans. And I just want to say these are the ones we know about. Without getting too much into the health system and the doctor crunch, we all know what everyone's going through, especially in our city, on how long the wait times are for a doctor, to find a new doctor. For a short time, we only had one gerontologist here in Lethbridge, Dr. Weaver. Thankfully, we now have a second one at the hospital offering assessments, but that just goes to speak to, the time that a person might have to wait to get their diagnosis. So these 58,000, again, are just the people that have, got a diagnosis, went to the doctor. And in Alberta, we're looking at about $1.2 billion surrounding that diagnosis, caregivers, healthcare, all those services that go into to serve somebody. Age is one of the biggest risk factors for dementia. After the age of 65, we do see that risk doubling. And then when we make our little pie chart, we do see women sort of representing more of that pie. That 65% of women over the age of 65 are living with dementia. But I think it's really important, the projected numbers of unpaid caregiving. We all know that there's many, many unpaid caregivers out there supporting their loved ones with dementia, or your neighbor, or the person down the street. And the numbers are going up. By 2050, we're looking at 161 million hours of unpaid caregiving that we'll be giving to people diagnosed. And just a last one for our stats, people are being diagnosed at alarming rates. We're looking at 10,000 per month, 348 per day. And just in the time that we will meet today, 15 Canadians can possibly get a diagnosis of dementia. So the numbers are big. And, we've got our big cohort of baby boomers aging into old age, and so many therapies now, right? We can overcome cancers and other things in our lives that lead us aging into dementia. So the numbers will continue to rise. But thankfully, we've got some support.
Yeah, for sure. So I don't mind to take over here. Those statistics are just kind of, they're heavy to get through, but we'll talk about ways that you can prevent that in your life. And we'll also talk about what we do at the Society to help people who are struggling through those sort of diagnoses or diagnoses. So our motto here at the Society is help for today and hope for tomorrow. We provide many services to help people today who are struggling with a dementia diagnosis, and we are funding a lot of research. That way they may have hope for tomorrow, that either there's many cures for dementia, there is approaches that are positive for people living with dementia. Since 1985, we've been a society. So yeah. And then the biggest question we get asked as the Alzheimer's Society is, what's the difference between Alzheimer's disease and dementia? So we'll just go into that here. And oftentimes we'll say that dementia is the umbrella for many different brain disorders. So you may have heard of Alzheimer's, maybe Lewy body, and vascular dementia. But yeah, there's about, I don't know exactly how many different types of dementia there are, but there is quite a few. And with each different type of dementia, there's different progression, different treatments, and it affects each person differently from person to person. So then moving on, we'll look at what a healthy brain looks like here to our left. And you can see that there's no atrophy in this brain. And if you would think of it as a roadway, it's very smooth, and you can get from one end of the brain to the other end of the brain quite easily, actually. And then if you are to look to your right, that's a brain with advanced Alzheimer's. So there's quite a bit of atrophy that you'll see. in the brain where the plaques and tangles of Alzheimer's have kind of taken into the brain. You'll see those dark spots. If someone was to have a thought, they probably wouldn't be able to get it through those deep dark spots, right? And that's where you can see people with dementia may struggle to respond to different things. They may struggle to give a sentence to you that makes sense. They may struggle to perform their activities of daily living as they once have before. Colleen, do you want to take over these?
Hey, so when we reached out to Healthy Lethbridge, you know, again, we're really in that sort of roadmap that Taylor just talked about, but we did want to come and share some ideas and thoughts around what we can do now to so aging and health, you know, aging well, we have three things, our environment and our lifestyle. And you know, generally, if we can keep those on a good level, we can age a little more gracefully into older adulthood. You know, healthy lifestyle choices help maintain a healthy body and brain. I kind of relate it back to like even the food guide, right? You follow the food guide, healthy eating, you should have more healthy outcomes. And I think we have to think of our brain that way too, right? If we treat our brain healthy and right, then hopefully we'll have healthier outcomes in the end for longer. Do you want to do this one, Taylor?
Yeah, sure. So possible risks or threats to brain health. At the Society, we have many different information packages that we can give you on genetics and Alzheimer's disease, whether you can get a blood test for Alzheimer's or other dementias. So if you're interested in that, just reach out to us and we can provide you with those information resources. But we know that there is many different causes that can put our brain health at a threat. Some medicines and the improper use of them can put you at risk for many different brain disorders.
Sorry, Taylor, I just flipped because we're going through these slide by slide. Sorry to interrupt, but here's our list broken down.
Yeah, Colleen, do you want to take these?
Yeah, sure. So Taylor was just mentioning medication before I rudely interrupted. Biggest thing here when we're talking about medications and brain health is, you know, some can affect us. And I think we all know this, right? We really need to check in with our health professional, our doctor, before adding new medications to the mix, just in case. But medicines, you know, can affect our brain health. I think we all know this one, smoking. You know, it's just not good for our health. The benefits of quitting smoking at any age are huge. You know, smoking all around just makes you unhealthy, which then can lead to poor brain health way down the road. So always, I think this is in every presentation and everything we hear, right? No smoking. And I think that leads exactly like same type of message is into alcohol. Excessive alcohol use is not good for you. There is a type of dementia that you can basically drink yourself into. Korsakoff's dementia is a type of dementia related to heavy alcohol use. So drinking can affect your brain so bad that you get a diagnosis of dementia. So some common conditions that can affect brain health. Oh, sorry, I did delete my slides. I'm a little off here. So heart disease and high blood pressure. I wanted to talk about how those could possibly lead into bad brain health. So heart disease and blood pressure can lead to a possible stroke. Stroke would be where we would see possible vascular dementia. Taylor, I'm wondering if you wanted to talk about vascular dementia, if you have anything to add.
Yeah, you betcha. So oftentimes when someone receives a diagnosis of vascular dementia, it's because they don't have enough blood flow in their brain, and it's actually caused atrophy in their brain because of the lack of blood flow. there. And although we know that there's medications to treat Alzheimer's disease, there is no medications to treat a vascular dementia, which is unfortunate because it has to do with the lack of blood flow to our brain. And we know also that this is irreversible. So that is something to look into if you're talking to your doctor about different blood, your blood and all that sort of stuff. It also comes with a different progression than Alzheimer's disease. So that's something to think about. Oftentimes they'll talk about it kind of like a staircase, as in, you know, you'll have a really great period where you're doing okay and you're remembering things all right. And then you kind of go down the stair and you are unable to do some activities of daily living. You've lost the ability to do certain things, and you keep kind of going down this staircase if you have a diagnosis of vascular dementia.
We're the opposite, like in Alzheimer's, we see sort of that steady decline versus those steps that Taylor just told us about. Next on our list would be diabetes. Diabetes really has a lot to do with the blood vessels throughout our body. There is a possible risk for stroke and heart attack with a diagnosis of diabetes. And then maintaining healthy weight and physical activity is also sort of wrapped up in that diagnosis of diabetes. So there is that concern, of course, when you have a diagnosis of being diabetic, that it could lead to some poor brain health down the road. I know there's a lot of research out there with a connection of diabetes and Alzheimer's. If you're someone that's researching and online a lot, there's even some talk about type 3 diabetes being called Alzheimer's. I'm not going to get too much into that, of course, because it's not something that's officially a diagnosis and recognized by the medical community, but there's some chatter about it. So something you can look up online if you've got some interest. And then, of course, something that will affect your brain health is Alzheimer's disease. As Taylor sort of talked about earlier, it's that slow atrophy of the brain, which, progressive degeneration of those brain cells. Basically, the brain cells are dying off slowly in your brain, leading to that shrinking of the brain, which affects all those connections, all those thoughts and movements and things we do almost have holes in them. When you have your brain cells and they're all connected together, but then one kind of dies off, that thought can't get through that damage. So folks have a hard time with those memories and recall in Alzheimer's. Next on the list is stroke, but I think we've already covered that with heart disease and high blood pressure and our vascular dementia. Traumatic brain injuries. We need to protect our head no matter how old we are. Everyone who's getting out on their fancy new e-bikes, make sure you wear your helmet, because the last thing we want is somebody in older age to fall and have a brain injury now, which can then lead to some poor outcomes for your brain. Lifelong depression, that high stress and depression over a lifetime can lead to poor brain health. And that's really, your overall health. Back to that sort of food guide type thought, if we're not eating healthy our whole lives, our nutritional status goes down. And if we're sad and anxious and at that level all the time, that can also lead to very poor health outcomes over a long time. And then sleep problems. When we have, say, sleep apnea, when you're stopping breathing during the night, can lead to possible injury in your brain with blood vessels. I'm not going to get too much into this because I don't know a lot about sleep apnea, but there is some studies out there that, you do need that nice restful sleep for good brain health.
Yeah, and I'll also just touch quickly on Colleen's comment about traumatic brain injury. Oftentimes, if you have a diagnosis of maybe frontotemporal or even vascular dementia, that often comes along with the traumatic brain injury. If we're hitting our brain, it can actually cause us to have dementia later on in life. So that's just that we have to be conscious about really being careful with our brain. Even when I worked in long-term care, I met a fellow and he actually had dementia because of a curling accident that he hit his head. So it's really important that we're conscious of our head when we're in sports.
So what can you do to protect your brain health? You can take care of your overall health. We can eat healthy foods. We want to stay active. We want to learn new things. And I don't mean you need to spend a ton of money and sign up for, everything out there so you can learn to like salsa dance and all of that. This is just new challenging things. Even if you just look around yourself right now, what's something that you can do a little different to challenge yourself? As a lefty, maybe I could try and write my name with my right hand and just sort of challenge my brain a little bit. So just little things add up to big help for that brain, I guess is what I'm trying to say. And connecting with family, friends, and communities, that social stimulation is so important. I don't know about you folks, but when I'm kind of staying at home, getting a little lonely, it's a little depressive sometimes. And when I get out and get to my friend circle, they really lift me up and build me up. And I feel that can do a lot for our overall health and well-being. Do you want to take this one, Taylor?
You betcha. So what can we do to take care of our health? It's important to have an open relationship with our doctors and talk to them about the things that we're experiencing with our bodies, and getting the recommended health screenings that are needed. Another thing that we can do is manage our diabetes, high blood pressure, and high cholesterol. So again, that comes into just having conversations with our doctors and healthcare professionals on how we can be best taking care of our health. Whether it is, monitoring your insulin intake and all that sort of stuff, anything that we can do to manage the health conditions that we already have to the best of our abilities. And consult with your healthcare provider to make sure that the medications that you're taking are right for you and that they're improving your health as best as possible. We already talked about reducing brain injuries due to falls and other types of accidents. And then lastly, again, quitting smoking. I had heard recently that you guys just had a talk about the Mediterranean diet. There are many studies to show, eating healthy, perfect. There are so many studies to show that what we eat and what we put into our body can really pertain to our brain health, as well as our physical health as well. And if you guys do want just a quick little one-pager on the Mediterranean diet, you can reach out to me and I can provide that to you as well. So yeah.
So again, back to that get moving, that healthy lifestyle is what brain health really comes down to, get moving, try to do, at minimum a walk a day, just a little bit of exercise, do your best to fit that in. If you haven't been exercising for quite a while, you might want to talk to your healthcare provider, before signing up for something overly vigorous, just to make sure. Starting small can lead to really great outcomes later. And I think this is a perfect time to plug our new program. Taylor, if you want to take on Memory Trekkers, I think now's a great time.
Perfect. Yeah, thanks for that little alley-oop there, Colleen. So when I first started at the Alzheimer Society, we reached out to the local YMCA, and we partnered actually with the YMCA to start a group called Memory Trekkers. And this group is for those affected by a disease of dementia. So if you're caring for someone living with dementia, or even if you're living with someone, or even if you have dementia. And this group is just a wonderful walking group and an opportunity to get out into the community and meet people that are kind of in the same boat as you. And it's just where you're able to walk the track at the YMCA, and it happens twice a week, Mondays and Fridays at 10:15. And we're going to have a volunteer from the Alzheimer Society also participate in this walk as well. So you'll be connected to the Alzheimer Society through my lovely volunteer. And also, while you're a member of this group, you're free to use all the resources at the YMCA. So whether it is, you want to go in the swimming pool, you want to use the weights, you want to do anything like that, you are free to use all the resources at the YMCA. And it's only $20 for the 6-week session. So it's a really good deal for sure. And if you would like the poster for that, please feel free to reach out to me. I'd love to give it to you. Here, I can take this one too. Sure. So also pertaining to brain health, we talked about keeping your mind active. So some ways to do this in our lifetime are doing mentally stimulating activities. So even something so small as like watching a game show, and so that you're problem solving and you're thinking of different solutions. It's so wonderful even just to make our mind think of something like that. So even if you're just choosing something to watch on the TV, you can make a healthy mind choice in that way as well. Another great idea is to continue to read books and magazines and work your mind in that way, and play games with family and friends. You're kind of getting the 2-in-1. You're getting the social stimulation and the mental stimulation. And even learning new things is so wonderful as well. So whether you're going to learn a new craft or you're going to learn a new physical activity, any way that we can make our mind work differently is super wonderful for brain health. And then take or teach a class or be socially active through working or volunteering. There's so many benefits to being active in your community socially and being connected to family and friends. They're your support system and they're the people that you're going to lean on. So it's just wonderful to be social in brain health as well.
I think attending these Wellness Wednesdays too is really good brain health. We're all learning something new. We're watching everybody, it's very stimulating, things are moving, we're learning. So great job, everybody. I think we can already check off, a little bit of brain health for the today. I see some thumbs up. We already kind of talked about this, staying connected, meaningful activities to you. Social activities are linked to reducing risk for some health problems. So staying social is so important. And I think it's in our nature too. We're social beings. I don't think people were meant to be out on their own and just isolated. We like to talk. We like to engage. I think we're built on that attachment piece where we just want to be with somebody. So keep those relationships up and going. And if you're struggling with those relationships, maybe your social circle is getting smaller as you age. I just have to put a plug in here for the senior centers. Events like Wellness Wednesdays and events that you can go and sit beside someone new and possibly have that opportunity to engage in something similar, change phone numbers, and who knows what could happen from there. I learned, I think it's one of the senior centers has like a speed dating, but for friendship. And I just thought, what a great thing to go and do one day where you can sit and just sort of meet so many people and then go back to those ones that you felt that instant connection with to maybe bond and further that. So yay for senior centers and programs like this. We are in the world of supporting care partners. I know my slide says caregivers, but we like to refer to them as care partners at the Society. And I think we would, not be doing ourselves justice if we didn't talk about care partner support and care partner stress, because as we age, we often are supporting somebody. And when you're a care partner, especially to someone with a diagnosis of dementia, that person really relies on you. You are their world. You're in a sense, you're like the clarity sometimes in a confusing world, especially when we see spouses that have been together for a long time. At my support group last night, a lady was talking to this exact point where she's like, even when I get up to the bathroom, my husband's following me. Where are you going? Because she is his anchor. And what we get nervous about is caregiver burnout or care partner burnout. When that care partner burns out to the point that they can't help their loved one, where does that leave the loved one? So we really need to talk about that care partner stress and be able to recognize it and help folks or lead them in the right direction to get some help when they're feeling that burnout. And one of the best ways we think is, learning about dementia. Often, the more you know about the disease, the process, the progress of it, the better you can handle what's coming up. Why are we getting repeated questions? Instead of just being annoyed at repetitive questions all day, when you get the science behind it, what's going on in the brain and why we can't remember, I think you can answer that, what day is it, a little bit easier after it's been asked 30 times. Same is being realistic about the disease, not having unrealistic expectations. Being realistic about yourself. What can I handle? As a spouse, taking care of your loved one, we often want to wrap them in our care and our love. And sometimes we're not ready to accept outside help until we get to burnout. And we're hoping that people can recognize that a little bit sooner and put their hand up for some help, like home care or whatever their needs are, so that they're not going into that burnout stage. Being able to accept your feelings is huge. Having a cry, when we get really upset, we have all sorts of chemicals flooding our brain. And when we take the time to actually have tears leaking out of our eyes, sometimes little tears, sometimes big, we're actually flushing our brain of chemicals and kind of resetting ourselves. So, when you're down, it's important to recognize your feelings, accept them, and try to make a plan to move on. And I think that goes with the next point of sharing information and feelings with others. We have support groups here. So if you are caring for someone with dementia, we meet Rath and Tabor. So we offer a safe space to come and talk about your caregiving journey. Community services, there's so many out there. There's lots of navigators within the city. Taylor and I work within the Alzheimer's navigators. There's Aging Alberta. There's a lot of services out there that we can help tap into. And most important, trying to take time to yourself. It's sometimes hard when you're supporting someone with dementia to take time for yourself because you are in care partner mode all the time, but trying to find an outlet and time to de-stress is really, really important. Maybe I'll do this one before I pass it over to you. When your mind is racing all night, when you are feeling depressed and exhausted, when we're having emotional reactions to, someone says something and you find yourself a little snappy, or you're starting to have health problems, I think it's time to maybe step back and evaluate your stress levels.
Yeah, perfect. So what do we do here at the Alzheimer's Society? So as I said before, our motto is kind of the help for today, hope for tomorrow. And that's really what me and Colleen strive to do every day, along with our whole entire client services team. So in the support that we provide, we have many different support groups. We have a support group in McGrath, and we have 2 support groups in Lethbridge, one in the afternoon and one in the evening. We did have a support group in Tabor, but I think that one's going to be put on pause until maybe again in the fall. And then we have what's called our first link direct referral program. And this is really what mine and Colleen's day-to-day job kind of looks like. And it's basically what we do to stay connected with our community. Oh, yeah. So it's basically what we do to stay connected to our community. So different healthcare professionals and different individuals, just in general, don't have to be a healthcare professional to give us a referral. we get the referrals, and then we give these care partners or people living with dementia a call, and we do an intake with them, and we understand what they need at this point, where they are in their journey, and we help them the best that they can by connecting them to local healthcare professionals or community services. We connect them to our support groups and help them to share in similar experiences and meet people that are kind of at the same boat as them. And then we help them plan for the future, whether it be to point them in the best direction of, writing their personal directive and power of attorneys, or helping them understand the healthcare system, moving into care, whether that's a good idea, or, also there's self-managed care where we can have care at home or home care, anything like that will help the care partner person living with dementia kind of navigate all these things from our calls that we give them. So we provide a call initially to do an intake, then we'll call them again in 6 months to see how the care partner or person living with dementia is, and then we'll call them every 6 months until it's 18 months, and then we'll call them annually after that. So if you would also like the referral form, please feel free to reach out to me. I see Heather in the chat every time I say something, she just puts it in the chat for me below. So that's awesome. Thank you so much, Heather.
Do you have a link to the referral form? Can I put that in the chat?
Yeah, I'll send it when Colleen puts it.
I can send email to everyone too with resources that might be useful.
Thanks, Heather. Yeah, and then so moving on, we also have virtual programming. So we have virtual support groups, and we have our virtual First Link connections, which is kind of our learning opportunity, our ABCs of dementia. And we do that here at the Lethbridge office on the second Saturday of every month at 10:30. And if you'd like to attend this meeting, you can just reach out to me over email and I will happily register you for this program. But we also have a wonderful website called the Asana Cafe. And there are kind of 4 key things here on this website. There is a chat opportunity where people, something's coming up here. There is a chat where you can ask many great questions and you can feel supported that way. There is the ask option. So we've gathered, the most commonly asked questions and we've put them on this website. And there's also so many opportunities to learn. There's something called the Seeds of Hope Learning Series. So if you're either helping someone living with dementia or you are living with dementia, this is a wonderful resource for you because it really has every single step laid out in videos and tutorials. So whether you're wanting to write a personal directive or power of attorney, there is a video of someone from a legal service walking through what is the best step to do this. If you're wanting to understand what it is like to have dementia, there's people that are sitting around a table that have received a diagnosis and they talk about, when they first knew that something was wrong, and they talk about how they would like to be communicated with, and they talk about just many different issues that they kind of see throughout their diagnosis. And then we also have live webinars about different things. So the one upcoming, it's coming on, sorry, let me just check my calendar. On May 10 is about the Dementia Advice Line, and it talks about different things that the Dementia Advice Line provides and how to access it. And we just had one on Lewy body dementia. So many wonderful webinars. And once a webinar has passed, you can access it on our website, all of the previous webinars as well. Thank you, Heather, for putting that in the chat. You are wonderful. And then lastly, we connect clients to available resources in the community. So just as me and Colleen were plugging, this Wellness Wednesday, wonderful resource in the community, and we'll tell our clients about things like that, or senior centers, or whether they need help financially, we can connect them to the lawyers, anything like that. And we'll be happy to send referrals, even to the best practice team in Lethbridge, all those wonderful things. We also have Minds in Motions, which is a cognitive and physical program, and that runs at the Lethbridge Senior Center, but it also runs virtually, and Colleen kind of has her hands in the Minds in Motions as well, so she helps with the virtual. I did already talk about the memory checkers, but the poster's right here, and I can send that to you guys as well if you reach out to me. And then the care partner support groups that we had talked about earlier. So that's kind of specifically what me and Colleen do in Lethbridge.
And we're going to flip some slides because we've already talked about a couple things. Taylor and I think we've kind of voiced this throughout the presentation, but we try to know our area as well as we can. So, getting to know our care homes, community programs, transportation, shopping, Meals on Wheels. We help a lot of our clients navigate these and reach out to different organizations, like we're asking for people to refer to us. We're sort of that referral partner for all of our partners in the community to help our older adult population access services. So that's a lot of what we do. Taylor mentioned that a dementia advice line just a moment ago. And, in Alberta, we can call 811 in a crisis and ask some questions about dementia. So that's great. I do need to warn, though, that sometimes these questions are a callback, I've heard, and I hope that doesn't happen forever. I hope they get the experts right on the phone when you're in crisis versus saying, oh, I'll call you back tomorrow. Because often when we reach out, we want an answer. So yeah, there is that dementia advice line. We are part of the Canadian umbrella. So Alzheimer's Society of Canada, we run under that. And then Taylor talked about our amazing Assant Cafe, which I really enjoy just logging on and learning. There's so much to learn there. One of my favorite things that we've missed is ask the expert. You'll see us advertise an expert, and you can log into the Assant Cafe and do sort of a live meeting and throw your questions in the chat, and they'll answer them for you. I think I spoke about where our office was earlier. We are downtown Lethbridge by the Purple Carrot Sonder Cafe. Please stop in. We have a pretty good, healthy resource library here. We have our society resources, as well as over the years, we've collected quite a few books and novels, movies, things like that, to sort of educate yourself on dementia. There are some more personal stories. I'm reading Jan Arden's book right now. She cared for her mom going through her diagnosis. So it's quite a cute story. She's got a little bit of humor in there, caring for her mom. But just to wrap up today, I wanted to give us a little brain health challenge for today. And I want to put out the challenge to everyone to, pick that one thing we can do today. Not logging on here because we already gave you that. We want 2 check marks today. What can we do to help our brain health? What are we going to do? Are we going to go for a walk? Are we going to give somebody a call? What are we going to try to do to stimulate our brain today? And I would love to hear if you've got an idea or something that just jumped into your mind instantly. And yeah, so just the challenge on to do something really healthy for your brain today. And just to wrap up, if anyone has any questions, we'd love to hear them.
I'll just also put my email in the chat. Colleen, do you want to put yours in the chat?